The project tool in At-Risk allows you to analyze your project schedules for risk. This is done by linking the simulation capabilities of At-Risk with the scheduling capabilities of Microsoft Project. Using the project tool, you can answer questions such as, what is my expected project completion date? Or, what is the probability of finishing more than 3 months late? You can also determine the critical factors that affect the risk of a project so that you can plan mitigation strategies. Note that Microsoft Project, any version from 2003 through 2010, must be installed on your PC before you can use At-Risk's project tool. In fact, the project drop-down won't even appear on your At-Risk ribbon unless Microsoft Project is installed. It is installed here. Also, to use Microsoft Project together with At-Risk, you cannot be running the 64-bit version of Excel 2010. Only the 32-bit version is supported at this time. When you use At-Risk's project tool, you first need a schedule created in Microsoft Project. Typically, you already have a project that was developed without including uncertainty. In other words, you will probably have a deterministic project, where all elements in the schedule have fixed values and a single completion date is generated. These schedules are saved in Mpp files. At-Risk's project tool imports your schedule's Mpp file from Microsoft Project into Excel. Once in Excel, At-Risk distributions can be added to the schedule so that a risk analysis can be performed. By using At-Risk functions and Excel formulas, you are able to create better, more robust risk models than can be built in Microsoft Project alone. In addition, you can access all of the capabilities of At-Risk when you work with project schedules. The schedule shown here is in Microsoft Project. It is stored in the file tutorial.mpp, available from the At-Risk example files. To import this project into At-Risk, you select Import Mpp File from the Project dropdown on the At-Risk ribbon and locate the file. Note that this file doesn't need to be open in Microsoft Project. In fact, Microsoft Project doesn't even need to be open, but it will launch and open this Mpp file when you do the import. You can click No when you are asked if you want to review import settings, and you can click Yes when you are asked if you want to save the import as an Excel file. I won't do so. Note that this Excel file retains a link to the Mpp file. When you open this Excel file again with At-Risk loaded, Microsoft Project will automatically launch and open the Mpp file. What you see here in Excel is similar to what you saw in Microsoft Project. The tasks in the schedule with their durations and their start and finish dates, and you even see the Gantt chart that has a bar for each task. A second Excel worksheet lists the resources used by the project. As mentioned earlier, the imported project is also open in Microsoft Project. This is because At-Risk uses Microsoft Project to perform scheduling calculations when it runs its simulations. When using At-Risk, your original schedule stays in Microsoft Project, and the model for the risk analysis is built in Excel. Formulas and functions can be added to cells in Excel where the task and resource dates and values are shown. You can now add probability distributions to the durations of selected tasks. For this example, I will add discrete distributions to 3 of the task durations. The distributions used can be any reasonable distributions, but for this illustration, I want them to have enough variation so that you can see some range in the simulation results. So I will add discrete distributions to these 3 cells. I'll make them all risk discrete with possible values 4, 5, 6, 7, and relative probabilities 1, 4, 3, 2. copy that to each of those 3 cells. The most likely value is still 5, but now there is variation around this. Then, just as in any at-risk model, you can specify 1 or more output cells. For a project, this will often be the finish date of the project. Your objective is to determine the range of possible dates for project completion, and possibly the likelihood of completing by a specified date. For this illustration, I will add the finish date in cell E2 as the single at-risk output cell. Now you can simulate your project by clicking the Start Simulation button. During a simulation, At-Risk for Excel communicates with Microsoft Project, sending Excel values sampled from distributions and calculated in formulas to Microsoft Project. In Project, these values are inserted into the schedule and the schedule is recalculated. New output values calculated by Project are sent back to Excel so that they can be collected as simulation results. Now you can explore the results of the simulation. For example, you can see that there is about a 4.5% chance that the project won't be complete until after November 13th, because this is the beginning of November 14th. Also, a tornado chart shows that the variation in the top 2 tasks is much more responsible for variation in the project completion date than variation in the bottom task. When you work with the project tool, you have access to all the usual reports available in At-Risk. For example, you can generate quick reports of simulation results. You can create charts in Excel and reports on simulation data and sensitivity analyses. In addition, there are some new reports that are specific to project simulations. One of these is the Probabilistic Gantt chart. A probabilistic Gantt chart shows, by default, the earliest, 10th percentile, and expected start date, and expected 90th percentile and latest finish dates for project tasks. It is shown in a format similar to the Gantt chart you see in both Microsoft Project and Excel. To display this chart for a simulated project, you select Probabilistic Gantt from the Charts and Reports group in the Project drop-down list. This brings up the dialog box you see here with various options, and you can click OK to see the following modified worksheet. The probabilistic Gantt chart shows both the original deterministic schedule in blue and the simulated range in red. The small solid red bar for each task shows the range between the earliest possible start date and the latest possible finish date. The lightly shaded red bar for each task shows the range between the start date 10th percentile and finish date 90th percentile. The 2 red diamond markers for each task show the mid start and finish dates. In this case, the mid values are the means, but you can redefine them in the probabilistic Gantt chart settings dialog box. The critical index column shows the percentage of time that each task is on the critical path. Any delay in a task on the critical path will delay the project as a whole. In a deterministic schedule in Microsoft Project, a task is either critical or it isn't. However, when a project is simulated, the critical path can change in each iteration as values in the schedule are changed by at-risk. The critical index ranges from 0% to 100%. Tasks with a high critical index are more likely to cause delay to the project because they are more likely to be on the critical path. It turns out that all of these are 0 or 100%, but it can easily happen that percentages are between 0 and 100%. This video has just begun to illustrate the many options in the At-Risk project tool. You can see more of its features in the project examples in the at-risk example files.